And welcome, Lagos, Nigeria, and world, to a new edition of Freshly Pressed for a Monday morning, starting off the week. We have got two analysts joining us, and by us, I mean Victor Pepple.
And Shepard Martins. Yes, of course, we have Wade and Mr. C joining us on a Monday.
Good morning, Shopper. Good morning, Apple.
Good
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 morning.
morning,
morning.
Lagos.
Good
Good
morning to
morning,
you.
Mr. C.
Good morning.
So calm. Mr. C, how's the weekend?
We don't have time for that. 30 minutes, people. 30 minutes. We've got you to make sure you send your WhatsApp messages in to 0809 4440981. You can also go on Twitter where we are at Smooth981FM. Use the hashtag Freshly Pressed 981. We're streaming live up on youtube.com/ Smooth981FM Lagos right now. So there you have it. You can leave a comment up on that live stream. Three different platforms for you to get to us via WhatsApp, via YouTube, via Twitter. All right, now let's get to the stories. We're going to be starting things off with one in from the Vanguard newspaper as we get an update on monkeypox within Nigeria. NCDC confirms one death and 21 cases in Nigeria. That's the Center for Disease Control, reporting 21 confirmed cases of monkeypox with one death from across 9 states and the Federal Capital Territory. In its latest report, actually in its latest report, it actually said that within 5 years from 2017 to 2020, we had actually recorded 558 cases and 8 deaths across 32 states of the Federation and the FCT. Now, the information that came out regarding the latest cases came on Sunday night, with Adamawa having 5 cases, Lagos 4, Bayelsa and Delta, Cross River, FCT, and Kano with 2 cases each, while Imo and River states have 1 case, respectively. Mr. C, I'm coming to you for this, considering the fact that monkeypox is endemic in Nigeria. It seems like this information is coming out really because of the global look on it right now, the global attention on it, with cases of monkeypox coming in non-endemic countries. But what should we be looking at when we're taking a look at this news?
Okay, thank you, Shopper. So, like you rightly said, there was a previous outbreak sometime in 2017 where it was successfully contained. Now we have another outbreak. There are 21 confirmed cases and one mortality. And our thoughts go out to the family of the unidentified individual. Now, the big question here is, why is monkeypox resurging after about 5 years? We don't have the answers yet, but it's interesting to note that our risk of exposure is high. Nevertheless, there's no great threat to communal life the way COVID posed the threat or the way Ebola posed the threat. And it's gratifying to note that this time the authorities have, to some certain extent, gotten ahead of the curve and are taking steps. They reactivated the technical working group and they started studying the genomic characteristics of this particular monkeypox virus. Now, for our listeners who are listening, what are the symptoms of monkeypox? Some of the symptoms include sudden fever, headaches, body pains, weakness, sore throat, enlargement of the glands, the lymph nodes in the neck and under the jaw, followed by the appearance of a rash, often solid or fluid filled at the onset, on the face, palms, soles of the feet, genitals, and other parts of the body. Now, this is a clarion call for Nigerians to be more health conscious as they have been in the last 2 or 3 years. And they mustn't overlook symptoms. They mustn't see a rash and just think it's something that will go, because this monkeypox can be quite contagious. So if you have any of these symptoms, report yourself to the nearest hospital, the nearest clinic, let them test you. And if it is indeed discovered that you have the virus, you can be quickly isolated and receive treatment. Now, the individual who died had underlying issues, so there's no evidence yet to suggest that monkeypox by itself will kill anyone. But this is just a call to everyone out there: be careful, continue to observe non-pharmaceutical interventions, continue to maintain very good standards of hygiene, and you'll be fine.
All right, let's look at this article in from the Punch newspaper. Terrorists no longer threatening to kill train passengers. This is according to a report of the Punch, and it's credited to a negotiator. Now, recall terrorists who attacked the Abuja Kaduna bound train on March 28. Yeah, they had put out the threats last week, but they have rescinded their threats of killing the abducted passengers in custody over failure of the federal government to meet their demands within 7 days. Parts of the demands were unconditional release of their detained children held in an orphanage in Adamawa State under strict supervision of the Nigerian army, as well as release of their detained commanders in arms. So just last week they gave 7 day ultimatum, and we're getting a report from the weekend that they've said we're not going to kill them any longer. We're feeding them. In fact, we're making sure that they are okay, giving them good medical care as well. But we want the government to release our commanders in arms and also some of the children in captivity. I mean, on the side of the government with the Nigerian army. What do you make of all of this?
Okay, so we're not going to kill them by May 30th. So we give them an
Today is May 30th.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
By today.
Yeah.
So we give them 2 weeks so that they can meet our demands. So that
2 weeks
additional weeks.
extension.
However, what beats me here is the people who are speaking for the bandits. Are you with me? Nobody, and we've said this not once, not twice on this show. What is Gumi's relationship? What is this Mamu's relationship? I don't know anywhere where the federal government has released any communique saying that they are the appointed negotiators with the terrorists. If if um, if something is, there are some underlying issues that we need to actually find out here. Nobody, no security or agency has actually called Gumi to ask what is your relationship with it, because every time we hear and it comes back straight, either through him directly or through Mamu, who they say is a spokesman. And what's the basis of these negotiations if the federal government they've clearly not said anything about it, really? Yes, they're negotiating behind, but have these people been appointed as the federal government negotiators? Because it beats me that every time bandits kidnap Nigerians, it's the same person that comes out to tell you, oh, this is what they want, this is why they feel this is why this is this, and nobody has. Gumi hasn't been called in to be interviewed by security operatives, and that's what beats me. I really don't understand what is going on. What has
Buck
been
stops
going
at the
on.
table, Mr. President, with regards release of these, captured bandits that they are demanding their release in exchange for those abducted in that train.
First and foremost, if you read through the story, they'll tell you, oh, they didn't know where the kids were held. Then all of a sudden they know that it was held by the Nigerian army there somewhere in Adamawa State. So who's feeding them the information? Who's giving them information of where these people are? Who is negotiating on behalf of the federal government that nobody knows? And that for me is really the mystery. We go back and forth on this, and at the end of the day, you accede to their demands, which either you pay the ransom, and this, believe me, something tells me that within the next 1 week they will release the people that they want them to release, and the abductors will release those who they've abducted. And that for me is really the question. The federal government continues to tell you that there's war against terror, but with this I don't see where the war is being fought. The governor of Kaduna State has severally said, governors in the north have severally said, oh, they have the security intelligence, but nothing is done. Instead, each time we hear is, oh, Gumi has gone to negotiate and come back to tell the government, and that beats me really. That's really good thing that they are not going to execute any of the Nigerians who are being held against their will for people's personal reasons or for personal motives or ideals that they believe that they are fighting for. And for me, the Nigerian state has really not done anything about it. Really not done anything. We're at the end of this is 2 months after, and nothing.
All right.
Okay, moving on into this next story that comes in from the Premium Times. Ex-governor arrested over accountant general's 80 million billion 80 billion naira probe with the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, arresting former governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, in connection with their ongoing investigation of the suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris. Now, he was actually arrested after he won the APC's ticket for Zamfara West Senatorial District unopposed, and he allegedly benefited to the tunes of, they said, around some in the area of 20 billion naira through Finex Professional from this money that they are investigating. Mr. C, your thoughts when you see this?
Hmm. Okay, thank you, Shokman. So the first thing that comes to mind is the suspended Accountant General of the Federation has been in custody for 2 weeks. Now, under the law, if you're arrested within 48 hours, you should be put in court. We don't know if that has happened. We don't know if the EFCC has obtained one of its notorious holding warrants from any of the magistrate courts in the Federal Capital Territory. Now, they've picked up a former governor of Zamfara State on the basis of suspicious transactions between him and the suspended Accountant General of the Federation in the region of 20 billion. Now, I've said this repeatedly on the show and I'll continue to say this. Why do you publicize arrests? Why do you arrest when you don't have all the details? Why do you arrest and there's a long delay in proceeding to court? Is that how serious law enforcement agencies in serious countries conduct their business? Why are Nigerian security agencies, why are Nigerian law enforcement agencies seemingly unable to carry out investigations without any of the alleged accused persons knowing about the investigations? Now, you've picked him up conveniently after the primaries. What are you going to do with these arrests? Is it going to be the same circus, the same whole charade where people are arraigned and then we don't know what's going on with the case? The case drags on for an eternity and nothing comes out of it, because the moral of the story, or what seems to be understood by the common man on the street, is it's all part of the process. They will call you in, they're going to interview you, detain you for a bit, take you to court, you'll get bail, and life continues. How does this arrest, in 2 weeks, are they saying they haven't gotten more evidence on the suspended Accountant General? Why has he not been taken to court? What was the basis for the initial arrest? The initial basis, was it not sufficient to stew charges against him?
Now, Mrs. D, you asked some very pointed questions, right?
Yes.
So, what would you say to someone who say, well, there, the timeline between the public arrest and prosecution, isn't it enough to go and gather evidence?
So, well, here's the thing. The proper thing to do is to gather the evidence before an arrest, before institution of criminal charges. There are numerous examples. I'll give you 3 from the US. The notorious Instagram scammer. He had been investigated for over 2 years. He wasn't aware. He was then arrested. He was then charged to court. And guess what? The moment he saw the charges, he pled guilty. The second guy, who was on some Forbes on the 30 list, purporting to be a very hardworking young man, when in fact he was scamming people, was also arrested. He did not know he was under investigation. The charges were unsealed when he was charged to court. And guess what? He pleaded guilty. We had an aide to one of the southwestern governors who was arrested. He didn't know he was under investigation. Initially, he was playing to the gallery, pretending he was innocent. When the indictments were sealed and shown to him, guess what? He has pleaded guilty. When a former Niger Delta governor was arrested outside this country and the charges were presented to him, he pleaded guilty. Why? Because in all of these cases, the investigating authorities had gotten all the evidence ready.
So, and I want you to answer this question for me. In your opinion, do you think that these public trials and public arrests are a placebo for justice?
Correct.
What can we do about them if the EFCC isn't doing
So
what they're supposed to do?
all of this happens because, in my personal opinion, we don't have strong state institutions. And until we get to the point where we have institutions that are strong, that are designed to continue in perpetuity beyond the individuals in power, we will continue to discuss stories like this.
So I want you to respond to one of our YouTube commenters, Lydia King, who says, "SSC, obviously EFCC has resorted to naming and shaming tactics as the Nigerian system has proved it impossible to get justice legally. So they just name the thief for us, so we know them." What would you say to him?
Yes, it's a very sad result by the EFCC because in an ideal situation, naming and shaming would be sufficient. But in Nigeria, I dare say some of our politicians, some of our public office holders do not have any shame. I will not get any shame anytime soon. They cannot be bothered.
Well, what do you say about that? Send your messages in.
All right, send them into 0809 4440981. Let's get this moving. This one in from the Punch newspaper. Banks starting Forex access as reserves hit 7-month low. Now, the country's external reserves hit a 7-month low after falling to $38.57 billion as of May 25th. Figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria has shown. Now, according to the figures obtained from the CBN on movement in external reserves, the reserves, which had been fluctuating for weeks now, experienced its lowest of $39.01 billion and $38.39 billion on October 10th and 8th, 2021, respectively. This isn't looking good for Nigerians, both travelers and business owners alike.
It doesn't look good, and I don't think it's going to get any better. I was somewhere on Saturday where someone was talking about the economy of Nigeria. Was to the end of the year. Our biggest opportunity to get in dollars, we've lost it, which is the Ukraine-Russia war. Crude oil prices have been off the mark, and we can't even get to 1.8 million barrels a day. We're shuttling between 1.4 and 1.6. This is a country that has a quota of 2.1 million barrels a day. So we've lost the opportunity. There's a strain on our foreign exchange. Elections are coming. We know that monies are going to go into the elections. Campaigns will soon start. And let's get something right. This is going to be the first elections where the campaign is going to be run for close to 7 months. Correct me, yeah. And then will be a lot. And not that it's bad for. It would have a lot of strain on the economy, but it would also provide monies in the economy for the naira. But I don't think the naira is going to gain any traction. Why? Because one, a lot of the transactions are going to be done in USD, and it's going to put more strain, especially if they are not bringing in foreign currency into Nigeria. And that's why we're seeing this. As at the last time, last week, the black market dollar closed about 609, 610.
612 actually. 612.
Yeah, about. So you can see the strain already just from the primary. So you can imagine what's going to happen. CBN is going to continually fight this, and that's why at the last meeting the MRR was moved by 2 basis points. So inflation is there. There is a foreign exchange issue that is haunting us, and who knows? It looks bleak. Based on what I hear, we might get to, I don't know, the possibilities of getting to 1,000 to $1 is very, very rare.
But not before the end of the year.
Possibly before then.
Victor, you want to travel?
Because there's going to be a massive rush for foreign currency. This is June. By July, those who are going back to school in August, in September, outside Nigeria, it's just going to be. It's going to.
But what can the CBN do about this, really?
The best CBN can do is try and manage the reserves and keep it above 40
Piggybacking what Wade has just said, ultimately the proper solution is to harmonize the disparate foreign exchange rates and have a single unified rate.
So different from the parallel market and the official
Just one rate. Wherever you go in Nigeria, one rate.
Yeah, that would be a difficult thing to do. Why? Because you don't even this CBN doesn't have the currency to back it, the foreign currency. It's your reserve that determine all this.
All right. Now, a shade from Ikeja up on YouTube says, we know that if we had a working criminal justice system, our politicians would be the first to pay for their crimes. To avoid this, they must incapacitate the system to protect themselves. Whilst we have this one in from Alex from VI, who says, with very corrupt judges all over, there is a little EFCC can achieve in their fight against corruption.
Now, Dean comes in and says EFCC wasn't set up to name and shame because if tabloids can do that, if all it does is to name and shame, it doesn't justify the money it spends. Another Nigeria failure.
All right, and Austin from Satellite says, Mr. C, stop asking why this and that is happening. Simply, they are running Nigeria as a family business. Those messages coming in from WhatsApp now. Remember, you can also send your messages to us on Twitter. We are at Smooth981FM. Okay, taking a look at the next story, which comes in from the Premium Times. Nigeria to have 29 million child brides by 2020, according to a report by the
2050.
2050. I said 2020. Oops. 2050, people, according to a report by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, which has predicted that Nigeria will have this number of child brides by 2050. Now, it put Nigeria's current number of child brides at 22 million, which it says represents 40% of such cases in West and Central Africa. Mrs. C, I'm going to come to you very quickly for this, for your analysis.
Okay, thank you, Shopper. This is a very disturbing story because currently Nigeria has about 22 million child brides, which represents 40% of the total figure for West and Central Africa. Now, who's a child bride? Child bride is any female under the age of 18 who's married. Now, in Nigeria, the legal age for consent is 18.
Now, Mr. C, I remember covering this story way back in 2013. There was an outcry, an uproar about this when the senators gathered to discuss recommendations for amending the constitution, and the issue of section 29 subsection 4 4b came up. Now, they talked about full age, meaning the age of 18 years and below. That's section 29 4a. And 4b says and specifies that any woman who is married shall be deemed to be of full age. And that caused such an outcry because they're like, okay, isn't that just a workaround?
So they were trying to ratify the nonsense that had already been done, right? So in some parts of Nigeria, in some cultures, some traditions, it is believed, it is accepted that once a girl starts observing her menstrual flow, she's old enough to get married. Now, the legal position in Nigeria, under the Constitution, under the Child Rights Act, is the girl has to be 18. Now, the bigger question is, how do we reduce this to the barest minimum if we can't stop it totally? Now, the Child Rights Act has not been domesticated in a number of the northern states.
I was about to ask you how many states have Child Rights Act have actually put that in place.
So I don't have the exact figure, but I do know that a good number of the northern states haven't domesticated that act. And beyond that, there has to be constant sensitization. You have to continue to teach them, continue to let them know that the girl child has to be educated. That even women who go to university, do the first degree, do the second degree, have very little life experience, if at all they do, before they jump into marriage. Then you then take a teenager or a preteen and ask the young girl to get married, because marriage is not for the weary, it's not for the faint-hearted. Marriage is serious business, and it also poses health risk to the ladies when they are constrained to enter into marriage before the age of 18. So it's something that we're going to have to work around, because like I said, there's certain cultures, certain traditions that seemingly permit it.
I know that the reference had been made to Northern, but I also know that Human Rights Watch had come out earlier this year and even talked about Imo State, which is a state that apparently has quite a number of child brides as well. You're looking at me like this. I said Human Rights Watch came out with
In
that.
fact, Yemi from Marina said the message says, I put it to you that 40% child bride is grossly understated. That number only reflects known numbers. The real figures will be a lot scary. We're in serious commerce.
So,
What a country.
so again, it also points to the breakdown of the basic social building block, which is the family. Because if we didn't have the widespread poverty we currently experience, if we didn't have the poor education we're currently experiencing, if everything wasn't is working properly, I'm not sure any parent will want to give away a female daughter below the age of 18 in marriage. No.
Now, Mrs. C, what's stopping us from harmonizing our laws in order for everybody everywhere to have
So
the same thing?
we're a federation, supposedly, or we're pretending to operate like a federation. So what that means is your method will work if it was a unitary system. The other comes from the center, everybody applies at once. But because we're a federal system, some states can decide that due to our local peculiarities and cultures, we're not going to do this law.
And legally, there's no way to bypass that.
No, because
Well, the different states have to, you know.
no, you can't force the state from the center to do it. But you can access if you have some sort of control over the governors, you can encourage them to do it.
All right, let's just quickly throw this story in from the Premium Times. Buhari deeply saddened by deaths in Rivers Church stampede. The police have confirmed that 31 people were killed on Saturday at the stampede, which occurred when crowds surged forward towards, church officials who were sharing gifts, including foodstuff, to participants at the event. Uwade.
First and foremost, my condolences to the families of those 31 people who lost their lives. But my issue with this is very simple. Because of the level of poverty, or the economic situation in Nigeria, anywhere you go and things are being shared, the chaos is I can't find the right word for it, but it behoves on those who are in charge to make sure that they come and those things are shared properly. If you expect 500 people if you say you're expecting 500 people in an event, then you should prepare for 750.
So the story is from Saturday. Saturday was the day they were going to have that event and share food items. From Friday evening, people had slept at the venue.
And that's my point. You could still have decorum if you had seen the number of people there. Why not make sure that you do it orderly? Why stand in one place?
Again, according to the story, it was supposed to be by 9 a.m. for Saturday morning. At 7, when more people came and saw, there were people sleeping there, they pushed the gates in.
You might as well have just stopped. There's no need in you. What has happened now is that I blame the church, and they should hold them responsible for manslaughter. That's my own opinion. And Mr. C is a lawyer.
You're welcome to stand by it. All right, very quickly, let's end the show on this message from Tosan, who says it's not only in the north that there's child brides. Imo State has at least 5% of the number of child brides. Even some states in the Niger Delta have child brides. The government is not doing enough to stop child marriages. I remember when some senators said that a teenager can vote since she's married. And that's what Tosan has to say. All right, and that's that for us, for Freshly Pressed at the very least. I would like to say a big thank you to our analysts, Mr. C and Owade. You can find them on social media. Mr. C is at Monsieur C with a triple E, and Wade is at Wadeahini _. Yeah,
you're right.
And there we have it. Okay, coming up, we've got sports for you inside the locker room, and that's at 8:15.